Lauren Boebert is a newly elected freshman congresswoman who is part of the sort of new face of the GOP. And I'm delighted to have her here on the podcast. Lauren, welcome to the podcast. May I start by asking you what you came to DC to do? Tell a little bit about who you are, your background, and why you ran for Congress and what you hope to accomplish.
Well, thanks so much for having me on your new podcast. This is exciting. I'm excited for you and the lives that you are going to change with this show. I'm one of them. I certainly have read your books. I've watched your films, and it was a part of this gradual stirring to want to be a part of the solution to all of the things I was complaining about. I'm not a politician. I was fed up with politicians. I was tired of people telling me one thing to get elected, but then they get to the state capitol, they get to Washington, D.C., and they forget who they work for. They forget who sent them there. And our Bill of Rights, our Constitution, this is very important to me. This is what makes America exceptional. And too many of these elected officials weren't standing to secure our rights, to defend our freedom. They were giving it away. That was very frustrating to me. And I'm a small business owner, and I understand how overregulation cripples small business owners and how capitalism and free markets work. They encourage a prosperous future for all of us, and globally even. I was raised in a Democrat home. And so I understand that these policies that we're being force fed, these lies that we're being told, they're destructive. It's designed to control individuals, to control families, to destroy the nuclear family. And it actually gets the American people in a cycle of poverty when you depend on these leftist policies. That's exactly where I was growing up. My mom believed those lies. She believed that that was the best way to take care of her children. But that resulted in us standing in bread lines. I stood in line for government cheese in the United States of America. That's not the American dream. But when I started working for myself, I put my hand to something, saw that I had the power to create wealth for myself. I had control of my own destiny, of my own future. I became a self-taught conservative because those principles were working in my life. And now I'm teaching these same principles to my children. And I feel that now more than ever, it's my duty, it's my obligation to secure the American dream for generations to come. Dinesh, I have 4 boys, and I'm raising my boys to love America. I'm raising my boys to be men, to be strong leaders. And I know that that doesn't come from safe spaces or entitlement or government handouts. It comes from the American dream that's available. And I want to make sure that that's there for generations to come.
Lauren, Debbie and I met you, about a year before you ran for Congress. We met you, and you told a very fascinating story about Shooter's Grill, and about how not only you, but all the other your employees were carrying guns, and a reporter stopped by, and they thought it was some sort of a prank, or they thought that you were putting on some kind of a Disney show. They had no idea that you actually carried, and so did your staff. Talk a little bit about why you did that, and about the importance of the Second Amendment.
Absolutely. So growing up in a Democrat home, I was taught guns are bad. Why are they bad? Because they look scary, and bad people sometimes use them to do bad things. Growing up, I began to debunk many of these theories that I was raised to believe. When I became a business owner, that was during a hardship. My husband and I took a risk in opening a restaurant. We didn't have experience in a restaurant like ours. My husband worked in the oil and gas industry, and for the first time, he was laid off, and we had 4 children. So what are we going to do? We took a risk, we invested, we opened a restaurant, and at first we were just Western themed. We were in Rifle, Colorado. It's the only city in America named after a gun. But shortly after we opened Shooter's Grill, there was an altercation where a man was brutally beaten outside of my restaurant. And immediately I wondered how I would protect everyone. What would I do if someone came in and was a potential threat? And that's when I took advantage of Colorado's open carry laws. I began practicing shooting, tactical training, weapons retention training, all sorts of things, so I could be prepared in case there was a potential larger aggressor that came our way. Soon after I began to carry, my waitresses began to carry. And Shooter's Grill has been called the safest restaurant in America because all of our waitresses practice our Second Amendment rights.